Hello, everybody. I'd like to welcome you. My name is Ted Williams, and we are broadcasting live around the globe, finally, from Muddy Run Observatory. Muddy Run Observatory is owned and operated by Exelon Corporation, and three astronomy clubs come together to help manage the facility. My name's Ted Williams, and I'm from the Rittenhouse Astronomical Society. We're the main group that coordinates the educational activities here. We also have expertise coming in from the Harford group in Maryland. And we also have a group, the Astronomy Enthusiasts of Lancaster County. We cull the experts from each of those groups, come together, and we are trying to keep our observatory program alive and running during COVID. Normally, I'd have all of you here. This is a night for an open house, and we could have 150 to 200 of you showing up outside. We're doing this in lieu of that. We're making plans for next year to return to some of those things, but for now, we're doing a little bit. This will be about a half-hour presentation, and we have a couple things lined up for you tonight. I'm going to let Al Ryan, our observatory director, tell you about some goals that we have for October, November. Denise Aveka, Mistress of the Universe, is with us. She wants to do a little bit about the planets for you and maybe make you aware of we'll just say the solar event that's coming up shortly. And I also have a friend with us today. I could say he's a Rittenhouse alumni, Rupesh. You might see his window up there. I'll introduce him formally later in the night. Because we're not going to be able to show you anything through our scopes, and there it is behind me there. You can see that the roof is closed. We're totally fogged out. It's slightly misty and raining. We seem to pull the worst of weather when we want to do these live events. But Rue spent some time with me and other members recently up at Cherry Springs, and I asked him to join us because he's taking some amazing images, and these are one of the things that we might want to try to do this with our scope and do this live with you also. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask up and move to another screen. I'm going to give this over to Al Ryan. Al Ryan's our observatory director. He's also on the board of the Rittenhouse Astronomical Society. He's kind of like the connection between Exelon and the educators. So let me get out of Al's way, and I'm going to flip this over to him. And you can just roll your chair in here, and I'm going to go to the other side of the dome. Okay, I'm all right, Al. I'm about 12 feet away from you. So go ahead. Whoop, there you go. There you go. And if you want to, you can take your mask off. We're far enough apart now.
No, I like my mask. In fact, I think I'll put it all the way up. Well, welcome everybody. I'm Al Ryan, as Ted said, and I just want to give a few brief words about what's coming up here at the observatory. Next month, we're going to have a guest speaker, Bob Noya, who's formerly editor of Sky and Telescope magazine and an editor at Astronomy magazine, and he's been all over the planet with NASA, various places. Very bright guy, very nice presentations he gives. They're very informative, and they'll keep you awake. His presentation is going to be on extraterrestrial life. So every question you ever had about extraterrestrial life, they'll be answered by Bob here. That's next month. I believe it's October 28th, or
I don't have my calendar, but yeah, it's on the website.
Yeah, we'll check the date.
October 17th.
October 17th. Thanks,
Okay.
Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
And in November, we're planning on launching a new set of programs here. We haven't quite fleshed it all out yet, but the notion will be on private observatories or astronomers. I think we're going to draw people from their own backyards, whether they have permanent observatories or not. We're going to try and draw some professional or semi-professional observers, people from universities. We're trying to get in touch with people like the Naylor Observatory from Harrisburg. I have my own backyard observatory. There are other people who've approached me. So if you know of anybody who wants to be a part of that, maybe show off their system, explain some of the things that they do, just send us the information or have them get in touch with us, and we'll put them on the list, and we'll have them present at one of our monthly open houses. And that program is going to stretch from November until at least May, and probably longer, depending on how successful it is. So that's the upcoming events. And I'll hand it back over to Ted.
So you got to move back. It's all about proper spacing. Okay. The idea came about, everybody, because Al has a backyard observatory, a small shell. And we have a couple people in our club, and I've met these people in other clubs also that have these backyard observatories. And we thought maybe this would be a good way to give them a little recognition, a way that they could show off a bit. So if you are one of the observatories that interested and you're thinking about talking with us, we want you to share what equipment you have. What type of scope did you set up? Give us a little bit of interest of, how did you get into this and why did you spend all the money in your own backyard to do this? And then if you want, and remember, we're a whole bunch of amateurs here, everybody. We share a couple pictures if you'd like. And it's okay if the pictures aren't all that great. We have people of all different backgrounds here. And if you don't start somewhere, this is a good spot. The Rittenhouse Club is full of people at all different levels. Well, anyhow, talk about a person I've been working with for quite some time. Normally, we're in a planetarium when we do these things. And Denise Becca is our mistress of the universe. Denise not only has presented for years in the Fells Planetarium down at the Franklin Institute, she branched out on her own and has her own business called Star Lab, Stars on the Move. Denise, you want to do a little bit about your planet report for us and tell us what's up?
Sure, Ted. Thank you. And hi, everybody. You might notice the moon behind me, and that's because today is the International Observe the Moon Night. So if you are somewhere where it's clear and you can see the moon, go out and have a howl or just gaze up at our beautiful moon. Binoculars are always wonderful. Telescopes are great as well, but the moon is something beautiful that we can all go out and look up and enjoy. So go out and observe the moon. I'm going to share my screen just to give you an idea of a couple of planets that are going to be in our sky, and two of them tonight are actually right near the moon. So let me share my screen. I'm going to share my whole desktop, so let's see if this works. Fingers crossed. So hopefully everybody can see my Observe the Moon picture. This is the website where you go if you want to find more about it. Hashtag Observe the Moon, moon.nasa.gov/observe. Can you see that? Excellent. I'm hoping. So
yes, we see it. I'm sorry.
Okay, Ted was talking about a solar event, and the solar event that he was talking about is the autumnal equinox, and we just actually had the equinox on the 22nd, and that is when the center of the sun crosses the celestial equator. It's an instant in time, and it marks when day and night are approximately equal in length. And it's pretty much one of the only days that the sun actually rises in the east and sets in the west. The other one of those days is the spring equinox or the vernal equinox. In summer, the sun actually sets northwest and rises northeast, and in the winter it's just the opposite. The sun sets southwest. So the sun looks like it's moving actually because it's the tilt of our axis and because we are moving around the sun. Always remember that. So since it's Observe the Moon Night, before we go outside, if it was clear, there are some planets right next to the moon. So if you're observing the moon, our biggest planet, the planet Jupiter, these pictures, all the ones I'm showing you tonight, are from Astronomy Picture of the Day. You can find that on the web. Just do a search for APOD or Astronomy Picture of the Day, and you'll get these wonderful pictures. And this is a great picture. Not only can you see a couple of moons of Jupiter in these shots, but you can see the great red spot. Now, if you go outside and you look at Jupiter in the sky without binoculars or telescope, chances are you're not going to see the great red spot. But if you have a telescope and some really good binoculars and a steady hand, you will be able to see a little tiny red color. That's the spot. Of course, a nice telescope will show a better spot. So if you get outside to observe Jupiter, and you'll know because it's the brightest thing in the sky other than the moon right now. But there's another planet right next to Jupiter, and let's see if I can find it without, here we go. The one with the rings, we all know, beautiful Saturn. So Saturn is not quite as bright as Jupiter because remember it's further away. This is also Astronomy Picture of the Day picture of a crescent Saturn. It's not the only planet that has rings, but you can see them through a small telescope. I have not ever seen them in my binoculars, but in a very small telescope, one that many of you might have at home in your closet, you can see the beautiful planet Saturn. So Saturn and Jupiter are going to be near the moon. If you're up early in the morning, you can see Venus, but Mars is the next one on my screen, so we'll show you that one. This is a great picture of the moon and Mars. A couple of weeks ago, the two were very close together in the sky, and Mars might not look like this through your telescope, but believe me, it's really bright in the sky right now. It's up there now, so if where you are, it's clear. Go out, look almost pretty high up in the sky, but look for something that's red and not twinkling. Chances are you're looking at Mars. It's pretty bright right now. And Venus is up in the morning. And a fun thing about Venus is recently, I mean, that we have thought the Venus was too high to support any kind of life. But recently they found that in the upper atmosphere of Venus, it's actually kind of balmy and very nice. And there are some elements that are seen when there is life present. So I'm not saying that there's life on Venus, but you never know. It's something that NASA is going to be looking into. So we'll keep you posted on that. And to round out pictures before we start, I wanted to bring your attention to this one. It's called, it's from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. And it's just a really great video of the rotating moon. I actually just leave this up on my computer desktop and stare at it because I think the moon is beautiful. Eventually you can download a moon map and you can learn what all these things are. We have Mare Crisium. Here's Tranquility Base where the astronauts landed, the Sea of Rains, all kinds of great stuff on this, the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. And last but not least, let me show you my planetarium software. I'm using Stellarium today, and we can see right here, if we went outside now, this is what the sky would look like. You can always put on, if you need constellation outlines to help you find things, you can do that as well. I think I have it on, I have to click on them. But you can see we have Jupiter and Saturn. Let's see if I can zoom in for you. And they are in Sagittarius. The moon is in Capricornus right now. Saturn kind of looks like it's in between. And if you move time forward, so right now this is early in the evening. Let's back out a little bit. Mars is also up over there in the constellation of Pisces. It's very low on the horizon now, so you might want to wait an hour or two. But if you have a nice clear view, like at an observatory or something, Mars is above the horizon. And if you wait till very early in the morning, right before sunrise, I'm going to move time a little bit fast. Don't want to get anybody sick. It's not as jarring as it is when you're in an actual planetarium. It's moving fast. We can see constellations of winter coming up like Orion and Taurus. But right before sun comes up, if we look over here in the east, there we go, the planet Venus shining in the early morning sky in the constellation of Leo, which is a constellation of spring. So that's kind of interesting. You can get a nice view of all the seasons if you stay up late enough in our skies. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm sure Ted's going to tell you about some deep sky stuff we can see in those skies on our next clear night. But thanks for listening, everybody, and enjoy your moon viewing or whatever it is you're viewing up there in the sky. Thanks.
Denise, I am so glad you made it here with us. It's great. It's great just sitting here and listening to you. I wish I could go outside and look at the view as you're talking. Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
Ted.
I appreciate it. So, I'd like to turn our attention now to our other guest this evening. And as I said, it was earlier in the evening that I had introduced Rupesh Varghese. Rupesh had been with the Rittenhouse Astronomical Society about 4 years ago and met us, I think, in the Franklin Institute. And then we bumped into each other recently again up at Cherry Springs. I apologize because I didn't remember. I can't remember everybody I meet there, but he said, "Oh yeah, I remember you." And I was looking at some of the gear he had. He takes me over and shows me his setup and far surpasses anything that I've ever gotten. And he's like, "Oh, it's all astrophotography." And I remember him saying something about, I said, "How did this all happen?" And he said, "Oh, my grandmother got me into this a long, long time ago because, you know, I used to go out and watch the skies with her." And I thought, wow, you never know. I hate to say this. Rue, is your grandmother still alive? Is she still with
No,
us?
she passed away unfortunately close to 10 years ago.
So her
But yeah,
influence, just like stars, man, still carries on.
absolutely.
So Rue's out there and he's doing this great job, and he was doing a couple deep space images for us. Rue, could you share a bit of your equipment with us so people can see what you've put together for astro imaging?
So this is my gear that I'm currently working with. I must say, this is not what I started with. It's taken 10 years of patience and saving up to get to this. When
Wait,
I first,
share your screen, Rue.
oh yeah, that's right. I got to do that. Aha.
So 10 years building up. Okay.
10 years of building up. So
okay.
Can you see this, Ted?
It's coming up. Yeah, we're there.
Okay. So yeah, the 10 years of saving up is what it took me, because I started coming to the Franklin Institute in 2010. Actually, I remember that very well. And then I bought my first astronomy gear, which happened to be a DSLR shortly afterwards. But yeah, so this is what I do my imaging with currently. Just to go over everything, up top, I have a guide scope. I don't know if you can see that. The guide scope is a small telescope that is actually very important to take deep sky photography. More importantly, what you need for great pictures is a good equatorial mount. So what everything is sitting on is called the German equatorial mount. In this case, this is a center balanced mount, but it's the same idea. The mount is pointed to Polaris. So if you draw a line from here, from the center part, and just draw a line into the skies, it points towards Polaris. Because Polaris is what, it's the North Pole, everything's rotating around it. And this mount is tracking the sky as it goes. And the guide scope will actually stay locked onto one star and will correct for any mechanical errors that the mount has. And then right below is the telescope. It is an Explorer Scientific ED-127. So that is the telescope right here. So it is 127 millimeters up top. So it's a 4-inch refractor with the 900 millimeter focal length. So I can get pretty good shots of like galaxies and nebulae. But it's also wide enough that I can get a little more detail for some of the other bigger nebulae as well. And then I have a camera, which is the most important thing if you want to take pictures, right? So this is a cooled camera. So there's a little cooler in there that brings the temperature down of the sensor to up to negative 40 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
When I was at Cherry Springs with Ted and Dan, the first time we went, which was last month, we were able to get down to negative 10 because of how humid it was. But this time, because the temperatures got really cold, I was able to get the sensor to negative 20, which helps avoid noise and gets you better quality images with the lower the temperature the sensor is. But in a nutshell, that's all it is. I have a little battery in here in case we lost power at Cherry Springs. A lot of cables, try my best to organize the cables so nothing gets caught on anything at the slewing across the night. And then we have a little dew heater because it gets humid, and you want to keep the dew off the lens, because once the lens dews over, everything gets hazy, and it's the same as having clouds. You kind of lose time, and precious. Clear skies are very precious, so you don't want to lose time because of dew. So it's very important.
The camera itself. Can you tell us plug the name of the camera? What's the name of it?
The camera is an ASI 2600. It is by a manufacturer called ZWO. It is a one-shot color camera. So a lot of astrophotographers, they go between a color camera or a monochrome camera, but this is a color camera. But yeah, it's an ASI 2600. But you can use a DSLR. Any DSLR, when I first started, I had a regular old Canon hooked into the back of it. You don't need to go with a cool camera as your first camera. A DSLR would work wonderfully.
Maybe it's a good time for this question. So I'm doing a little bit of my own astrophotography, and I get it all set up, and all of a sudden everything seems to be fine, and I get the image just drifts ever so slightly. Is that my alignment, and how important is alignment when you're doing this?
So it can definitely be your alignment. But the other important thing is having a good guide scope, because a guide scope can actually correct for any mechanical errors that the mount might have. Even with a great mount,
Okay.
some mounts go up to tens of thousands of dollars. You still need a good guide scope because there's gears, temperature changes. You want to make sure they don't like lose focus. So guide scope will actually stay locked onto one star and one star only. And then if the star moves to the left or right, up or down, the guide
Okay.
scope, the mount can
So
correct for it.
it's compensating continually then for you.
Correct.
So if your alignment wasn't exactly perfect, it's able to engage both motors, and move it to the proper spot.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
But
Okay.
polar alignment is very important because the further away you are from Polaris, the more the mount has to work, and the more you may get like some bloated stars or some stretched out stars. So it's very important to get polar aligned really well. That should be everyone's first thing to do when they set up somewhere is get good at polar aligning.
So
That can be
go ahead.
it can be a very frustrating step when you're first getting into the hobby. But it is a very important step to do at least well enough that you can actually not worry about it too much.
So it's interesting. I recently bought a camera, but it's a video camera and also doubles as a still camera. And you were taking your pictures, and then you came over and you were talking with me. I'm only learning to take exposures like up to 5 seconds. How long can you take an exposure before I start to see the stars roam in that picture? Especially if let's say it's static or I'm just taking a picture. Can I go 5 seconds and not worry about the Earth's rotation? Will it affect that view?
Yeah, I mean, you can go as little time as you want or as much time as you want, depending on the camera. But when you do astrophotography, you wanna capture enough data to build up the data. So you don't want like if you capture 5 seconds of data, there's something called signal to noise ratio. It's how much signal to like the actual camera's noise is in that image. So if you only have 5 seconds of pictures to stack, even if you have 2 hours of data, there's not enough data in each of those images to like build up the image. So you want to have at least a couple minutes of data to get a decent result in the end.
So I'm sure it's different with the image, but let's say an average. Let's say the image you did the first one I was watching, which was the Trifid. How much time did you invest in collecting the image? How long is that exposure?
So that exposure was about 2.5 hours. I believe I can actually go and tell you right now.
Cool.
Oh wait, that's a different one. Let me clear my annotations because this doesn't make sense now. Clear all drawings. So
Beautiful shot, by the way. Go ahead.
thank you. So this is my image of the Trifid Nebula. I love the Trifid. It is beautiful, I think. The colors, the emission nebula, the blues, the reflection nebula part of it, I think it's beautiful. But with the Trifid, when I captured it, I actually only got a couple hours of data. It is 1 hour and 52 minutes of data. So it was 28 images at 240 seconds. So that's 4 minutes. Yeah, 4 minutes each. I would have gone with more data, but when we went to Cherry Springs, the Trifid actually was in the trees by the time I got to that time. Otherwise, I would have loved to have had an extra couple hours. The more data you get, better contrast and less noise you build in your image.
Rue, one of your friends would be very proud of you. He's on the Zoom with us. Joe Stieber always says to me, I can't stand it. They never give enough information about how they acquire the image. I think he's quite proud of you because this is what he wants to see. How did you build it? What were the conditions? What did you do? You even have a Bortle dark sky scale there too. That's excellent.
So one of my mentors and good friends, actually I know Joe pretty well, but is Jerry Rodriguez, who's a very famous astrophotographer. He told me it's good to capture this data now because 30 years from now we'll not be remembering this.
Right.
So it was very important to me that I actually captured the data and have it recorded because I also want to know how to improve over time. So when I take this image a year from now, I would like to see what differences I made or if I got better.
This is basically your record. This is your diary of here's how I set it up, and next year I'll tweak this parameter.
Exactly. Because I also wrote down what I used to process the the image as well. I use an app called PixInsight to stack and
Okay.
process it.
Right.
And I am still learning, so I actually wrote down the steps I did. So in a year from now, if these steps are the same, or they got better, and I can see how much I've grown in the time I'm in this hobby.
Wow. Okay, wait. Let's move on to another one. So I saw you do this one weekend, and then I go away on a Wyoming trip, and I come back, and there you are again. In fact, for our club members, we've been trying to get up there a little more often, and you were working on triangulum. So share
Yes.
that one. This is a beauty.
This is actually I love this image. I'm not just saying that because I took it. The triangulum is there's a lot going on here. It's an entire galaxy. Aside from Andromeda and the Magellanic Clouds is one of our neighbors. We're all gonna be one big happy family in 4 billion years. So, this image, I actually got a lot more time on this because I spent an entire night on this image. And I'll go back to my stats so I can tell you exactly what I did. So I got 5 hours and 50 minutes.
Wow.
I could have gotten about 6.5 hours if I didn't spend some time troubleshooting earlier the night. I was having some technical issues.
I don't mean to disrupt you, but Rude, during that 5 hours and 50 minutes, I know we had some cloud cover come over. I was there. So when the cloud cover comes over, does your camera just like get rid of those pictures, or are they averaged into the stack?
So this night was the first night when we had no clouds.
Right.
But to answer your question, it does not get rid of the picture. It just keeps taking the pictures, and it's up to you as the processor to get rid of those data. If you stack the clouds, the images end up being hazy because it kind of gets that into it as well. You can actually lose the quality because you because you put the clouds in there.
Okay. Because the stacking could be averaging it then, and then all of a sudden, the cloud quality is then being okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. But this night was actually clear. I only had to throw away 2 pictures out of the entire night. Unlike the next night when I threw away about 25 pictures.
Okay.
Clouds. But yeah, this night it was perfectly clear. The next morning when we woke up, it was 29 degrees when I woke up at 10, so it was very cold as well, which was great for imaging. But yeah, the triangulum, all the reds you see in there are actually other nebulae in the galaxy. Just like when you look out to our own galaxy, we see nebulae. But these are actually nebulas in the triangulum galaxy itself. And the stars you see mostly are the stars in our Milky Way, of course.
Is there any software, like, can you have the stacking actually take out the bad pictures for you? Can that automatically do it, or you have to get involved?
You kind of have to get involved. There are some apps that actually, the app I use called PixInsight will tell you what the best picture is and what are bad images. But even with the clouds, it doesn't know that it was cloudy. It just sees stars and looks at the star quality. So it doesn't know it was a hazy night. So I guess that's, unless I could be wrong as well. I'm still learning, like everybody else.
Right.
But you have to get personally involved. And even with automation, only you know what's best for the image you're going after.
So we have time for one more. Take a look at your images and share like another one, like in the past year or two, that you just thought really blew you away.
So I can do that, but I was also going to show you. I'll show you this one,
ahead.
which is the Eagle Nebula.
Wow.
This one is the Hubble calls it the pillars of creation, the little part in the middle over here. But this was about 4.5 hours of data actually, and I actually took this from my own from New Jersey, so it didn't go to clear skies or in the dark skies, I should say.
Wow.
I live between New York and Philadelphia, so best of the worlds for light pollution. And with this one, I had to use a couple different light pollution filters to cut through the light pollution that we all know and love.
Right. This is a very famous shot for us because Larry Hubble, who's on here, did the on our Zoom group. This was one of the first images we took with MRO telescopes, and he's got a beautiful color image of this one. So it's a very famous site for us, and we're actually hoping someday we could maybe sell some of our images to the public when they get here. We use a little fundraising. Beautiful. I can see. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I want to show one image, and it's only because I'm very proud of this, but it's not a good picture. This was the first picture I ever took. I don't know if you can see it. You know, it is
Right.
streaky. It's Andromeda Galaxy. But when I first got this picture about 10 years ago, even though it's not up to anyone's standards, I was hooked. You know, like, and I had this picture as my phone wallpaper for years, even though, you know, no one would look at it and say it's good, but it still kept me in the hobby. There's no need to get discouraged by one bad picture, one bad night.
Well, when this looks like a picture I just recently took, so and I too, I'll have to admit, I was blown away because I'm looking at your picture, and I did mine from my backyard deck, which is Philadelphia light pollution, and I could see those dust bands, and just the fact that I could see those dust lanes in the picture, it totally freaked me out. So I think I know what you're looking at here and
Yeah,
why you
absolutely.
like it so much.
Yeah,
Yeah, just
so yeah, I mean, I know I have some great images, I have some good images and some bad. You know, some nights are not the best, but this is the first one I ever captured with my camera, the first picture I ever took with my camera and a telescope, and it's so near and dear to my heart because as soon as I saw the dust lanes and the stars,
yeah,
I
yeah.
was hooked. You know, and
I
yeah,
think it did the same thing to me. It was that because you look at the sky after you take that and you think, how the heck does this pick this
exactly.
out through all of that? I know. So for those of you who are tuning in on our YouTube thing, I guess astrophotography and astronomy and video photography of the night skies is becoming all the rage. And technically, we're not sure about this, but we're not sure we can really safely share a telescope without sterilizing those lenses. Anything else you want to share with us, Rue?
I mean,
You
I could show
okay?
all my pictures, but if you go to
Wait,
lostphotons.com,
yeah, show us get us up to the header and show us the web address. Let's
this
do a
is my
plug for
website. It's
this.
called lostphotons.com. This is an image of the Laguna Nebula I took. I call it lost photons because all the photons would be lost to space and time if I didn't capture it with my camera. So I love the name lostphotons.com. It's a work in progress of a website. But if you click on astronomy and all my astrophotography pictures are there, and I'm hoping to have a full Messier catalog on here, and then and more images to come as long as the weather cooperates with us.
Hey, thank you very much, Rue. And thanks for sharing. And I know this is difficult for everybody because Rue has said it to me and others have said it to me. I'm only an amateur. I'm only starting out. And why are you holding my work up? Folks, we got to share with each other so we can inspire each other. And I'm so glad you shared the very first one you took, because as soon as I saw it, I just thought that's what hooked me too. Same thing, being able to pull that image in. Well, thank you very much, Rue. And what we'll do is we're going to leave a link to your website on our Muddy Run page here. And that way people in the future, they can come back and take a look. And hopefully we'll leave that link up for a good year or two so you get some exposure for that.
Well, thanks for
Okay?
having me, Ted. I really appreciate it.
Cool. I look forward to getting with you again up at Cherry Springs. It's going to be getting
Absolutely.
colder, so you got to be ready.
I'll be there next month.
Okay, very cool. Okay, so we're running a little bit over, but I want to end this. I'm going to see if I can share my screen right now. Okay, and I want to do a little astronomy with you guys here. And there's my broadcast. So wait a second. This is left from my observing last night. All right. Is this upside down for you guys, or is it right side up?
You're fine.
Okay, but wait, I'm not here on my screen, so you'll have to bear with me. Oh boy, let's see. If I turn it, will it flip? Okay, so my head might be upside down, but I was looking at the Saturn Nebula the other night. Remember, I'm looking for targets now with a brand new camera that I'm trying to find. So I'm zooming out. Sorry to disorient everybody, but here you are. I got our night sky, and it might look a little different to you. Normally, I start with a very basic sky, but this is the astrophotographer's sky. You can see all the Messier objects I've had highlighted here, and you can see all of the NGC objects. Well, we're getting to that time that we're getting to the end of summer. And although a lot of us like to spend our time over here taking photographs, in fact, the Eagle Nebula is down in this area, and the Lagoon Nebula, Omega Nebula, we're starting to lose them now because this is already 8:30 in the evening, and it's they're starting to set over there. So let's speed this up to now. Okay, now I'm on our right date, not last night. And you can see we're losing the center of the galaxy. And what's kind of funny is this is a time of year I always had a problem with, because as you turn away from the center of the galaxy and you look over towards the Great Square of Pegasus, you start to feel like, my gosh, what's over here? There's hardly anything. Well, there's a lot of stuff that's hidden over here. You just have to really know it, and some of it's a little bit more difficult to find. Venus or Denise was talking about Mars being over here. Yes, it's over there in Pisces. But take a look up over here. For those of you who have your binoculars, those of you who are just starting out with your telescopes, you can't miss this one. It's called M15. And M15 is a globular cluster. It's very, very tightly packed, one of the most tightly packed clusters we have out there. And it's easy to find. And here's how my trick is. These two stars, you can see Enif, which is right about, Enif, right about here. I call that the nose of the horse, or the nose of Pegasus. And then this ear star, Baham, right back here. Take a look at the distance between the two of them. Okay, now draw a straight line between the two of them and keep on going out and go about just half that distance. And that's how you hit M15. So for those of you with binoculars, this is actually pretty easy to catch. Although because it's so condensed and it's so, let's just say tight, it's a very, very small area of the sky. Most binoculars can almost catch Baham and Enif together in one field of view. So it's almost like you move your binoculars over and then you find M15. So what waits there for us? Well, if I bring some information up on it, you can see it's one of the most highly condensed Messier objects.
Ted, we lost audio. Not sure what happened to Ted's speaker. Ted's using Stellarium, for those of you that want to know, until we find his audio. And globular clusters usually are around the outer rim of the galaxy, and we're not exactly sure why, but they contain some of the oldest stars in galaxies, and other galaxies have them as well. Messier 15 is going to be nicely positioned in the fall for us to view, nice and high in the sky and easily to find right off the nose of Pegasus. I don't know if we need to text Ted because I can't even change his screen, so we're stuck. Dan's going to send him a message. And Rupesh, there was a question for you in the chat, so you might want to take a look at the chat. It was something about imaging, question for you. So
Yes, it was Dome Operator. So I think that might be Larry Hubble, correct?
Al, yeah.
Oh, Al, yeah. So the question was, oh, it says Al, yeah. If I plan on doing any narrowband imaging, and the answer is yes, absolutely. That's exactly what I put in the chat. So for those who don't know, so what I do is what's called broadband imaging. So it's capturing the red, blue, and green colors that we see with our own eyes. But narrowband imaging is where you capture images with the filter in front of the camera. So you actually get pictures of with H alpha, hydrogen, oxygen, and sulfur data. So you can actually see what.
Well, since you guys can hear me, I
Yes,
think
we
we're going
can
to
hear
stop
you.
right there while we're ahead, everybody. Dan, if you want to, I'm going to sign out, everyone, because you'll have to look for M15 and you'll have to tune in next time, and I'll keep you appraised of M2. It's a real tough one to find, but, you know, I'll take a look at that. Oh, okay. So wait a second. How'd this clear?
maybe it had something to do with sharing your
I think my machine actually signed off. Well, anyhow, right there, Dan, stop the flow on the YouTube video. Goodbye to our international audience.